Hello and Merry Christmas again. Let's give some gifts of varying quality to the Pacers today on what they could use to improve their season outlook. Plus, I want to compare this team and their expectations and another reason they've fallen short beyond the obvious ones. And I want to talk about their horrible of late three-point shooting. You'll get all that today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Congrats, you made it through the weekend. Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I'm recording on Christmas and wearing a tree on my head. So congrats to you YouTube watchers for that lovely experience. And I have a lot I want to talk about. Some of it topical for the holidays. Some of it something I personally wanted to just look into as a project, and I probably will continue to track this all season, and that is the Pacers' record and various arrangements with how many of their top 9 players available from last season. And then, of course, at the end, we'll talk about three-point shooting, a huge problem for the Pacers of late, and how much of that is just not having Tyrese Haliburton and his ability to both make his own and create strong three-pointers for others. We will start, though, with something that I was going to record with someone else today. They have a family. I have a family. We couldn't really find the time to do it. It didn't work out. But Rhett Bauer and I were talking about what we could talk about today. And he, of course, suggested the classic Christmas Day podcast topic of gifts for players and the team of various quality. And I found that to be actually pretty interesting because of the way he did it, calling it a stocking stuffer and then an under the tree. So I'm going to use that, but I'm going to use it a little bit differently. I'm going to do a stocking stuffer, aka something small that the Pacers should want, an under the tree gift, something the Pacers could really want, a little bit nicer. And then, of course, what Santa would bring them the biggest possible gift. So we can talk about lots of stuff in that way. And I will say that in their stocking, something that they should want or might be looking for is some minutes for Cam Jones. The problem with this is good luck picking who you would take off the floor if you're the Pacers to play Cam Jones just a tiny, tiny bit. He's played in 2 games now. Everybody's talking about him making 2 shots. That's great that he put them in the basket. I'm not saying he should be playing more than even like 10 minutes a game right now. Who knows what his NBA shape is? Who knows what his quality will be against real players? He's only played garbage time. However, they have played poorly of late. They're 6-24. If they go 500 the rest of the way, by the way, I predicted that'd be a 500 team. We'll talk about that in the second segment. If they go 500 the rest of the way from their 18 games under 500 mark right now, they'll finish with like 32 wins. What's the point of that? Right? So mixing in young guy time does make good sense as long as it's under healthy reasons and not just throwing them out there with a bunch of other young guys and seeing what happens. So I don't know what this will look like. And that's part of it, is finding out what that is and what it will look like. I don't know who it should be with because I don't know exactly what his strengths will look like. I have a good idea of them because I've seen him play in Summer League and with the Boom. But some real Cam Jones minutes interest me at the expense of who? Ethan Thompson, maybe Garrison Matthews is already, maybe, who knows if he's even going to be on the team very much longer. If they make a move at center, who knows? But if they can find a way to get Cam Jones 10 real minutes, 5 to 10 real minutes in some games, that would be helpful for them learning. That'd be helpful for Jones' development and should be in their stocking on this lovely Christmas Day / day after. Under the tree, the Tony East idea, what I've kind of been hinting at recently when looking at all these on-off numbers for players and what duos and trios are good. Hey, maybe the Pacers can try to play TJ McConnell and Pascal Siakam together even more than they already are. I found it very revealing. I mean, I think we all knew this. I think Rick Carlisle knows this. I think the Pacers know this. The goal of building a rotation is exactly that. You're trying to make the 48 minutes as good as possible and not the 30 whatever minutes that certain players on the floor as good as possible if it means that the other 16 minutes will just be terrible, right? The Pacers have always been about that. They like to keep certain units together when there's injuries, so they have guys leapfrog into roles. I'm not saying anything they've done in the past has been wrong. I don't even know if what they're doing right now is wrong. But right now, at this point of the season, TJ McConnell's played about 320 minutes, a little bit more than that, 208 of them with Pascal Siakam, 113 without. So 65% of his minutes. Maybe a little bit more than that. Could be helpful for the Pacers. They've been very good in those minutes. Very good in those minutes. So far this season, with both McConnell and Siakam on the floor in those 208 minutes, the Pacers' net rating is plus 10.5. Their offense is really good at 118.1. Their defense is pretty solid at 107.6. It's probably unsustainably low. In fact, the opponent three-point percentage with both those guys on the floor is 28.8. That will certainly go up, but the Pacers' three-point percentage is not that awesome in those arrangements either. So I think you can expect that to at least stay above zero. With just Siakam, no McConnell, the Pacers' net rating is minus 8.9. With just McConnell, no Siakam, it's minus 20. Together, the team is awesome. So if they want to evaluate the best version of the Pacers right now, and I think they showed in the fourth quarter of Pacers-Bucks when they put those two guys out there together for 10-plus minutes to attempt a spirited comeback, they know that their best chance right now to do anything is with both of those guys on the floor. Maybe they should want more of that. However, some of you listening might say, no. That's too good. They shouldn't want that. They should not want that. And I still think they need to learn something from this season. A completely lost season is good for no one. No one at all. Even if they get a good draft pick. No one at all. Okay, maybe you think less of that's a good thing. So I think everybody can agree some Cam Jones time would be good. So I didn't think of a second stocking stuffer. But if people don't want the Pacers to roll out the good thing that has clearly been working for more time, here's another smaller one. This is also Rhett's idea. Under the tree, some Johnny Furphy minutes with the starters also happened at the end of Pacers-Bucks. That group that cut it from, 18 to 9 or 8 in that fourth quarter. It wasn't enough, but it was like, oh, they actually look like a real team. And they're not just getting completely blown out every quarter. Their offense can actually do stuff. And Johnny Furphy has earned this chance, right? His defense has been improving to good of late. Like, he takes on real assignments and keeps really solid players to preventing them from getting to their spot, or at least makes it harder for them to do so. And, the same thing that he was awesome at last year has popped up again recently, and that he has a nose for the ball and these rebounds. It hasn't been as extreme as last year, but his advanced numbers on the glass were awesome last season and are pretty still good this year, right? He gets steals. He does a lot of stuff that's very interesting. And now he's making shots. His true shooting percentage is up to 54. That's still below average, to be clear, but is 3% better than last year and is steadily improving many of his last games. Of course, that 18-point game really helps. Rick Carlisle said they really like him. Like, we see it. And yet he hasn't played that much with the starters. Obviously understandable why. I'm not saying he should start, to be clear. But they've played a total of 63 minutes this season with Furphy and even just 2 of Mathurin, Nembhard, and Siakam, right? So I think that upping that could be better. They've played 8 minutes of Furphy, Mathurin, Thompson, Nembhard, Siakam. That's that group we saw very often down the stretch of Pacers-Bucks, that even group, right? Their defense was really solid. As a unit, they've played a lot of lineups with that much, but only 4 or 5 groups with at least 5 minutes that include 2 of the top 3 and Johnny Furphy. I wouldn't start Furphy. I still think right this second, until Nesmith returns, I would personally start Quentin Jackson. He had the most dynamic play in the starting 5. Maybe even McConnell does make sense for the same reason. But I think getting Furphy into the mix earlier with his sub pattern would actually be good for the Pacers. Maybe give him Jarris Walker's rotation spot. Not saying Walker shouldn't play, but switch which of them is playing with whom or when that sub actually happens, because of the things that Furphy can do. And the numbers are at least somewhat interesting and telling to me of what they hope is going on or what they hope can happen for him. And, of course, the big present from Santa. There it comes down the chimney. Health. Duh, right? Duh. Just anything you want to say about the Pacers this season is blanketed by this, but they've been unhealthy, or they missed this guy, or wouldn't this guy be better if that guy was playing? And just to have anything to say and speak for of this year, they need to be healthy, right? We'll talk about this in a second, but they've had 6 of their top 9 from last year once this whole season, right? Just to know, or at least have a better feeling in your stomach if you're a Pacers decision maker about who does and doesn't work in what role, and who does and doesn't work with who, and who should be subbing in for who. And okay, if Haliburton misses time next year or isn't as good and they need to rely on other lineups to find some success, what are the 5-man combos they could throw on the floor? What pairing should they have out there? They don't know. It's so hard to make decisions in their current reality because they don't have much new information. Would Nembhard be better running the table with better players around him? Would Jarris Walker look more natural and more effective if he was in the right spot in the pecking order? Or other guys be better if they were just catch and shoot guys instead of being asked to do more? Defensive assignments, where do they rank? Things of that nature. If the vibes were just better because more wins were coming or there was more spirit on the bench, how does that affect everybody? Health would make everything more straightforward. If they were completely healthy all year and were 6-24, it'd be very easy to tell what they should do right now. If they were very healthy all season and they were 14-16, same thing. But instead, they've been unhealthy and bad, and it's very, very hard for them to determine what should we do now? What if we're the Pacers? What do we do now? I don't know. I think they would like some health for just a small amount of time to find out. How many times do you think the Pacers have had of their top 9 from last season, at least 7 of those players available this year? 6, 5? I wanted to know, and I wanted to know the Pacers' record in those situations, who the players are, and it will be very revealing about their season to this point. That's coming up here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, I need to talk to you about Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving in the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. If you always know the game, but you've never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge, you can take part now live in a market powered by people. You are no longer just a spectator. Play by play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app right now to begin. Features and cleared swaps trades involve significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Events contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Let's also very quickly talk about DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through, whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player. DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert now. Those late-night interviews hit, and suddenly you need chips at midnight. DoorDash is built for exactly that. If the group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure you show up prepared. Snacks, cups, and even a phone charger with a friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day, your second listen, whatever interests you from the NBA slate of games. The end of Cavs-Knicks was crazy. The Cavs blew a lead, a big lead in the fourth quarter. Danny Cunningham was there for Locked On Cavs. Locked On is everywhere. Locked On Cavs or Locked On Knicks for the only Eastern Conference Christmas game, Spurs Thunder, happening. As I'm talking right now, I wanted to do this research project. I want to share the information from you. We all have. The Pacers have to make decisions based on what has happened this year. And yet every time, I just said it, injuries have blanketed and covered and been a factor in so much of what's happened to them this season. And Tyrese Haliburton's injury, of course, is part of it, but Miles Turner's departure is part of this, and they've never had almost all their guys available this year. So let's get in a time capsule for really quick and hop back to last season, right, where they were good. They won 50 games. They made the finals. They could have won it. Right, a lot went well for them last year. Their top 9 players in minutes, and I think everybody would argue McConnell's in their top 8, but he was 9th in minutes, is Haliburton, Siakam, Turner, Mathurin, Nembhard, Nesmith, Toppin, Ben Shepherd, TJ McConnell. That was their top 9 guys from last season. And so that group was good. They were mostly healthy after their first 15 or so games, and they rolled that through the rest of the season. This year, not healthy at all. Haliburton's missed every game. Turner is on a different team. That very much limits the possibilities of this team. Now, I went through their past records without Haliburton and the records without Haliburton and Turner and tried to figure out how good I thought they could be. And so then you end up with this other group of 7 of Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, McConnell, Mathurin, Toppin, and Shepherd, and think, okay, how good could the Pacers have been with all those guys? I obviously predicted in the low 40s for their win totals this year, 41, including their NBA Cup games that were not scheduled. They lost both of those. But 40, 41-ish for them this season. Because I thought those 7 guys is enough of a core for the Pacers to win half their games if they have relatively normal luck for those guys. They have had all 7 of those guys available for no games. None. Right? And they had it for half of that preseason game in Minnesota before McConnell went down with that hamstring injury. And ever since then, it's just been thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. And so pretend they had 6 of the 7 available all the time or 5 available all the time. You know, that obviously would be very disappointing for them to have the record they have. But I really wanted to dive in and say, who have they had when? How much has it hurt them? Right? Can anything be taken from this? Or is this more damaging than even I am giving it credit for? Right? Because 7 is the most possible available of their top 9 from last year. No Haliburton all season. No Turner because he's on the Bucks. But the rest of them could all play in the same game. They did in Minnesota in the preseason. They have not since. 7 has not happened at all in the regular season. They have 0 games like that. They have 0 wins. Okay, no problem. Let's go to 6, right? They don't have McConnell for opening night against OKC, but they had all the other three. They had Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, Mathurin, Toppin, and Shepard. So they had 6 guys. They play the Thunder, and they lose. And in that game, Nembhard gets hurt. That's the only time they've even had 6 of their top 9 from last season. And now you start to get to the point where it's like, again, I have to, and I will, continue to talk about these players and what they're doing and what their role is and if they've shown improvement or if they haven't and what context makes sense for them. But now we're already at the point where of their top 9 from last year, they have had even more than 2/3 of them once. And it was a preseason game. They've had exactly 2/3 of them once. Other than that, they've had 5 out of 9 or less every single game. Of course, they're going to be a lot worse than people thought, right? Of course, guys are going to be taking on even bigger increases in role than even they might have thought or even the Pacers hoped that they would have this season. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But this, we know, I know this, you know this, we know this, the Pacers know this. This is known information. But when you really type it down and make a grid of who played in what game and what games the Pacers won and all this stuff, you're just like, man, they've had nothing. So, okay, they had one game where they were missing Turner, McConnell, Haliburton. That's it. How many times have they had over half of their top 9 from last year available? I mean, how many times have they had 5 of them on the dot? The answer to that is 11 times. 11 games they have had 5 or more. So of their top 9 from last year, they have had over half of them available 12 times in 30 games. So less than half. Yikes. In those 5 games, they were missing Nembhard in a couple of them. They were missed Nesmith for a bunch of them. They've missed Toppin for all but one of them, right? They've always been missing somebody. The only guys to play in all of the games where they had at least 5 guys were Ben Shepard and Pascal Siakam. Every other thing is some Mathurin here, a Toppin game there, a couple Nesmiths here, a couple Nembhards there. Nembhard only missed one of these. In the 11 times they've had 5 or more of those guys available, they're 2-9. 2-9. That's still very bad. How many times have they had 4 of their top 9 guys available from last season? The answer to that is also 11 times that they have had 4 of their top 11 from last season. They are 3-8 in those games. Siakam is in all of them. McConnell is in all of them, and Mathurin is in all of them. Every time they've had 4 or more, it's been those 3 guys, as well as in a couple they had Shepard, and in a couple they had Mathurin. Shepard a couple times and Nembhard a couple times. I am all over the place with my notes right now. But that's the crew that's been available for their 4+ games. And they have 3 wins in those. They obviously played pretty well against Sacramento and Chicago twice in that stretch. But again, 11 times they've had 4 of their top guys from last year. I mean, it's so hard to actually break this down with any sort of meaning. 3 guys of their top 9 from last year has happened 6 times. Siakam, of course, in all those. Shepard in all but one of those. Nesmith in all but one of those. And then in the other ones, they had Nembhard, Mathurin, and Siakam. They won against Golden State, and the rest of those 6 games they lost. And then, of course, the game in Golden State when they rested Siakam and Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard played, Ben Shepard played. That's it. No Toppin, no Mathurin, no McConnell, no Turner, no Siakam, no Nesmith, no Haliburton. They lost that game. So what are we even doing is my first thing to say, because that's 18 of their 30 games this season that they have had less than half of their top 9 talents from last season, both in terms of realistic level of talent and in terms of minutes per game. Less than half. Of course they're going to be bad. Should they be this bad? Probably not. We'll talk about shooting in a second. But I mean, that is shocking to see. The numbers that are surprising is the 5 and 6 games, and of course their one game with 7. The preseason game doesn't matter. There are 12 games with 5 or 6 guys available. As you can tell, I have a million notes on this page, and I keep looking around and saying things wrong. They have 12 games with 5 or 6. They've won 2 of those. Those are the ones that make you go, man, something is off with the spirit and ability of this team, right? That is where they should be winning more than they have. Now, most of those games, all but one, came after the first 10 games of the season, right? Until they got McConnell back, it was really hard for them to get that many guys on the floor because Nembhard and Mathurin got hurt, and Toppin all got hurt so early. And other guys have been choppy. Your hardship guys have been on the floor even since then. So you have to count the role players as a factor in that as well. But it's just shocking to see how often they've been missing some of these guys. The fact that they've had more games than not with less than half of their top 9 guys from last year's finals team is just shocking. Now, they should be winning more when they are healthier, but seeing all this in one place was just so surprising to me. They've got to find a way to be better when they have their best guys available, but they need, like I said in the first segment, to have more of their best guys available to just learn anything about this season beyond just maybe like, hey, this team might be a little more injury prone than realized, or hey, maybe these young guys can't actually step into the roles that they would have hoped they could to eventually stabilize their cap sheet. Alas, that's how the NBA goes. I will probably keep updating this the whole season. Do they ever get a game with 7? I kind of doubt it. Do they get any more 6-in-1 games when Nesmith returns or when Toppin returns? We'll see. This will be a recurring thing. Probably will return in the All-Star break. Pacers three-point shooting. Blech. Of late, especially, it's been bad again. What is going on with this? Is this just Tyrese Haliburton? Is this also Miles Turner? Is this also Obi Toppin? Where does that land? How can they be better in this way? We'll talk about that to close out today's Christmas recording edition of Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, I want to talk to you guys about game time. During basketball season, there is nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, that big first run that gets everybody on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets. Fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. You can see the view from your seat before buying. The prices with the fees are included up front, so there's no surprises at the end. The zone deals unlock great seats at better value, whether it's an NBA game or another live event. Everything is right there in one place, and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, that's LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action with Game Time. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen to Dan every single day in this holiday. It's much appreciated. Cam Johnson out for the Nuggets for 4 to 6 weeks. Ugh, that stinks. Check out Locked On Nuggets for more on that, or Locked On Nets, because they traded Michael Porter Jr. and a pick for Cam Johnson. And people are forgetting that that was a salary cap trade as much as a talent trade. But oh boy, has Michael Porter Jr. been good for the Nets, who are like a 500 team when MPJ plays. Locked On Nets will have more on that. How are the Nets this good? I don't know. Jordi Fernandez is the answer. That guy can freaking coach. And the Nets are kind of decent. Okay, let's talk about shooting to end this. No shock to anyone. The Pacers can't shoot this year. If you've watched any of their recent games, you would know that with immediate knowledge. I mean, they have just been dreadful shooting the ball these last couple games. The first half of the Boston game was something, and then they shot so bad in the second half that game ended as a below average three-point shooting game. If you say 35, 36%, whatever, is league average from three, they haven't hit that number in 6 games. That the last time they did that was against the Kings before the cut break, when they had 3 games in a row well over 40% from deep. And you'll be shocked to know, and by that I mean you won't be shocked at all to know, that the Pacers' best stretch of winning when they won 4 out of 6 was their best shooting stretch of the season. If you can generate and make good shots, your chance of winning goes way up. Shocker. I know. Shocker. So since the cup break, the Pacers are 63 of 224 from 3. That is 28.1% in 6 games. That's horrible. Their best three-point shooting game in that stretch was 13 for 38 in Philly. They were up 5 in the fourth quarter of that game. In fact, the 3 games in which they shot over 30% from 3, in Philly, at home against the Knicks, and in Boston, they were winning in the fourth quarter. In the other 3 games when they shot below 30% from 3, they got completely blown out by not very good teams. Shooting is obviously very important. Obviously. Everybody knows that. The Pacers ranked 24th in attempts, 18th in attempts, and dead last 30th in percentage at 32.1. Just terrible stuff. If you go to just their last year's stats for comparison, they were 21st in attempts. They're actually taking more threes, but they were 9th in percentage, right? Last year, they were a little choosy with their attempts, but boy, were they drawing them, right? Very productive in a way. So that makes me want to look at this year. What is actually going on? Why are they shooting so bad recently? Dead last is obviously a problem. And of course, there's a couple things to start with. One is something I just ran through. Miles Turner, for all the detractors of him now, his stats are down this year, whatever. I'm not going to talk about that. He can shoot for a center. And even with J. Huff finally emerging somewhat in his current situation, he still is not shooting at Miles Turner levels. J. Huff is at below 30% from 3 right now this season. And it's felt like that's gotten much better of late, right? That's a big drop off at the 5. Aaron Nesmith, a terrific shooter, has played in 11 of their 30 games. That really hurts. Obi Toppin's a good shooter. He's played in 3 of their 30 games. And guys that have shot better in the past, like Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd, they are the interesting ones because they can't make anything. Mathurin went through stretches of very good and very bad, right? So what's actually going on here? Some of it is what I said. Their better shooters have either, in Turner's case, left completely, or in Nesmith or Toppin's case, are hurt. So that's some of it. And then there's Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese Haliburton, of course, creates amazing threes for himself and for others, right? That is something I always talked about with him. Of course, he and his volume with passing and his creativity with passing, everybody knows this part where he makes everybody else's shots easier. So that, of course, improves the team's three-point percentage. He also can self-create his own threes and make them, and that is also a significant thing. If you take 8 threes a game and make 39% of them, that's a huge threat to the defense, especially when the percent of your threes that are assisted is barely over half. 52.8% of Haliburton's threes are assisted. So a big part of them, beyond his passing, is missing that this guy who takes basically 4 threes a game that he just creates for himself and makes 39% of them, that's just gone. And that would be 7% more likely to go in than their current rate of threes, right? Awful shooting without him. And yeah, let's go back to last year again. Tyrese Haliburton on the floor, Pacers three-point percentage, 38.2. That's very good. Without him, 34. That's not good. That's bad. That's much better than this year. That's way better than this year. Over 2% better than this year. But if you look at the difference of players' three-point percentage with and without Tyrese Haliburton, I mean, everybody shoots better from 3. The only guys who did not shoot better from 3 playing with Haliburton compared to not last year were Siakam by 0.007%, Obi Toppin by 0.023%, Jarris Walker by 0.03%, Thomas Bryant by 0.4%, and then Ray J. Dennis and Tony Bradley, who played a combined 7 minutes with Tyrese Haliburton. Everybody else made a better, if not in some cases significantly so. Miles Turner shot 10% better from 3 playing with Haliburton. Same with Ben Shepherd, who's really struggling this year. Ben Mathurin was at 4%, 14% for Furphy, for example. So I'm being clear, some, and I would say a big part of their shooting this year is missing Tyrese Haliburton. Duh. I think that applies more to the guys that you'd consider strictly role player catch and shoot guys. Ben Shepherd, I just said, 10% better with Haliburton last year. Nesmith was 44% with Haliburton, 41 without, so that's 3%. He still should be knocked down in both situations. That hasn't happened this year. But like Nembhard obviously shot better without him by a little bit. His life's been harder, and he's actually improved as his shooting for last year. Turner's a big one compared to Huff. It's not even close. Turner with Haliburton last year shot over 40% from deep. Huff is currently shooting under 30. An enormous gap in three-point shooting quality. However, those other guys are the ones that it's really hurting. Guys who can create their own threes or can be a part of an offense that has threes created for them that are all struggling, that is where things really hurt. And that group kind of, like Nesmith shooting 37%, that's much below what he was at last year. But this group to me is Mathurin right at league average, Furphy down at, not even Furphy, McConnell's way down, Walker sometimes shoots his own, he's way down. Toppin sometimes like in the flow, he's way, way, way down. He's barely played, obviously. Everybody's going to be down without Haliburton, but some guys who are able to off one dribble or, can get it off without playing with Tyrese Haliburton all the time, like with the second unit, those guys shooting way worse, that has been really painful. But it's basically everybody. Everybody's got to shoot better. If they don't make threes, they're just not going to win very often, if at all, this year. I'd be very curious. In fact, I could just look it up because I'm talking right now. Of their 6 wins, how many of them came in an above average three-point shooting game for them? And the answer is, I believe all of them except for one. Their worst three-point shooting percentage in a win was when they beat Golden State. They shot 30.3% from deep. When they beat Chicago, they were at 32% in that home game. Every other win, they were at 38% or better. And they defended very well in those other 2 games. And of course, at 30.2% or worse, they are winless. They are 0-13. They've got to make some threes. Some of that is going to be hard without Haliburton. Some of that is possible and just hasn't happened this year. But Rick Carlisle said, I like most of our shots, but not all of them. TJ McConnell basically said the same thing. Shot quality could help too. Thank you guys so much for listening today and bearing through my 2-game break around Christmas level of topics without guests. A lot of me just rambling to myself. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking about a game. The Pacers are back. They play the Celtics again. We'll be talking Pacers Celtics right here on this feed tomorrow. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a wonderful holiday weekend if you can, and we'll see you very soon.